everybody, what's up? Killjoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today we got a little bit of an update on our old pal Leatherface and his new movie that comes out sometime this year. We have an official title and an official rating as well that we're gonna get into in just a second here, but first I'm gonna need you guys to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Also, please consider supporting me on Patreon if you want to see more videos. If I have some more support over there, I will actually be able to put out like daily videos on a whole bunch of other crazy horror news. And right now I can only do like the really big stuff, but I would like to talk about like more things that I'm really interested in. So please consider checking that out. The link will be in the description below. Alright, now let's get into it.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Well, I'm Pennywise the dancing clown.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast!
You son of a...
God, don't do that.
Well, sometimes that is better.
So the Fede Alvarez produced new Texas Chainsaw Massacre that is slated to come out at some point in this year. We don't have an official release date as of right now, unfortunately, but we do have an official title. It is just going to be titled Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Not The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not Texas Chainsaw 3D, no, just Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Alright, whatever. That's kind of how I feel about like everything with this movie. Alright, whatever, yeah, like cool, let's do another remake or continuation that this movie actually is. Just like Texas Chainsaw 3D, you know, it's something we've already gotten in this franchise. It's a little weird, but you know what? I'm down for it. As I've talked about in past updates, the original directors were fired from this film because like the studio just didn't like what they were seeing. So now they have this guy named David Blue Garcia on the film, and he directed this film called Tejano? I sound really American saying it that way, but I don't know how it's pronounced. I don't really know this guy too well, so like, who knows what we're gonna get from this movie. Like, I hope it's good. I got high hopes, but who knows. Going into some actual good news here though, we do have an R rating for this film. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is rated R for strong, bloody horror violence and gore and language. A little too many ands in that sentence, don't you think? That's kind of a must for this series. Literally all of the other films in this franchise are rated R. Like, they kind of have to be. Like, this is a pretty gross series of movies here. You got a lot of cutting up people and eating them. You can't really do that in a PG-13 format, although I'm sure the Weinsteins would love to try and make that happen. Thank God they're not around anymore. Like, did you guys see that video where I was talking about how they wanted to make a PG-13 Hellraiser? Yeah, they wanted to do that. Holy crap, would that have been bad. I don't know, like right now my feelings are pretty mixed about it. I've gotten a lot of comments about this movie. A lot of people are really excited for it. I think it could be good. Like, I think that there is a legacy sequel to be had with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This one's going to be delving into a little more of like having an old man Leatherface. Like, it's gonna be just a direct continuation to the original, like I've already been saying. We also know that Sally is coming back, the original final girl, played by a different actress, of course. To me, there's just been so many foreboding things about this film so far. I don't think it's gonna be good. The original directors were fired. You threw some other guy into that mess to try and fix it. That just almost never works. There's no director who could just go right into the middle of a different production and like try to fix it and salvage it. Because like what usually happens there is like the original people, they had a vision, right? And the studio, they didn't like the vision. They didn't like what was going on there, so they throw somebody else in there who has like a totally different vision and tries to like course correct. It just never works out because then you have like all these mixed ideas coming in and out, and like stuff just doesn't make sense throughout the whole film. There's probably stuff that was set up at the beginning of the film that is now never going to be resolved towards the end. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen with this movie. It's not going to be great, unfortunately, but who knows? We could get surprised and maybe like they just started from scratch again with the film. That's usually not what happens in situations like these. The other thing I'm thinking about is like an old man Leatherface running around trying to kill teenagers again. Like, do we even really want to see that, honestly? Like, I want to see a continuation of this film that takes place maybe like 5 years later in like 1979. Let's go back to the 70s, man. Let's do what the Conjuring. Why is that the movie that's coming to mind right now? Unfortunately, it is because they're like period pieces. They take places in different like 70s, the 80s for some of those films. I'd like to see that with this series. Why don't we do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre that takes place in the 70s again? That's kind of what was so good about that one remake, the 2003 one. I know a lot of people don't really care for those movies, but I thought, like, honestly, out of all the films in this franchise, besides the second film, which is like an awesome cult classic, comedy horror film in this franchise, which is so weird, The 2003 remake is actually probably my third favorite in this whole franchise. It's not trying to like do all this convoluted stuff like Texas Chainsaw 3D did. Like there was so much forced stuff happening in that movie where it's like, oh yeah, like this is a movie that takes place 40 years after the original film, and like there was this girl that was born to the Sawyer family. Oh, and she's like 20, even though her actual age would be something like 40. If it were like in her mid-40s if she was born in 1974, doesn't make any sense. Hopefully this film doesn't fall into the same traps that Texas Chainsaw 3D did. I would like to see them just try and do something new and original, like something we haven't seen before. And I know saying that like, okay, taking place in the 70s is something we've seen before, but we could go back to simplicity that way. We could like really just play around with new antics with the Sawyer family. We don't have to worry about explaining things about why are we coming back to the franchise after 40 years. That was the biggest problem with Halloween 2018 in my opinion. We had to re-explain all this stuff that people, like or new generations, might not have known about Michael Myers. We're gonna have to do the same thing in this film with Leatherface. And it's just not gonna be as great as people are hoping it's gonna be. Oh, speaking of Halloween 2018, I'm just not accepting all of the hate for that film. That is like one of my favorite Halloween movies. In that whole franchise, that's like number 2 for me. It's such a good movie and people freaking hate it. I keep putting polls out and people are like, oh, Halloween 2018 was terrible. What? That was so good. Like, it's like the most brutal we've ever seen Michael, and then the sequel to that's gonna be even more brutal. Side tangent over though, back to Leatherface, I just hope this movie's good. Like, hopefully we get a miracle here and it's a good continuation to the film. We haven't really seen a good continuation to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre almost ever. A lot of people don't like 2 just because it's such a different, totally different tone than the original film. It's much more of a horror comedy. I like it though, personally. I know some people even prefer the second film over the original. I think that's a bit of a whack opinion, but I can see that though. That's a justifiable opinion, just not a very good one. I'm excited to see what they do with the film overall. I'm gonna go to the theaters and watch it and of course review it. Hopefully we get some new updates on the film, like an actual release date sometime soon. Who knows? Like we know it's coming out in 2021 because of that poster that came out a few months ago, but who knows when? I'm thinking since they finished up filming in late 2020, like it'll probably come out in like July, August. There's kind of like this little window of like where no horror movies are coming out in like that time period, so it might come out then, who knows, or probably more likely a September release date. That would make sense. Horror movies tend to do really well in September and October. I wonder why. Tell me what you guys think about the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the comments below. Like maybe you're like really digging everything you're hearing about this, like an old man Leatherface running around being out of breath with a huge chainsaw. Who knows, maybe you're into that. Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching my video on, this is the official title, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2021. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, just look up Killjoy Jake and I'll come up. Please consider subscribing to my second page, Movie Smoothie. I literally just review films that come out that aren't horror movies on that page. I also pitch my ideas for other like sequels and franchises that I would like to see eventually. You can check that out by going to like my channels section on like this page and like you'll just be able to see it, click on it, and you can go subscribe, hopefully. Also, please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link for that will be in the description below. And as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.